Welcome to my Just Jenny podcast. Today's guest is Emmy award-winning journalist and CBS Saturday Morning co-host Michelle Miller. You're here, Michelle. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're so adorable. But you're here because you wrote this memoir that knocked me off my socks. I should say knocked me out of my socks, knocked me off my feet, out of my socks. It's so good and so moving and so gripping. And I think that the reason I knew it from the jump, and the book people is called Belonging by Michelle Miller, a daughter's search for identity through loss and love. I know it's a good book when I have to keep going back to it. So, as you know, because you're a journalist and a really good journalist, you do your work, right? You prepare for your interviews and you read your books, and I'm sure you have a stack, right?
Mm.
Right. Okay.
I have a stack literally right here. These are the books. These are the two books I'm reading right now.
Okay.
One is from a coworker, Mary Calvi, and it's fiction based on fact.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is Our Unfinished March by Eric Holder.
Hold on a minute. Co-written by Sam Koppelman. You know who he is?
Yes.
My nephew.
No, I didn't know he was your nephew.
My brother's son.
Shut
That's my Sammy.
the front door.
I'm not kidding.
I did that. Mary Calvi.
That.
If a poem could live and breathe, and Our Unfinished March. How you about?
No, it's no big deal. He's only 27 years old and has written these incredible books. And the other book he wrote was Impeached with Neil Katyal. My nephew did that one too, and he's incredible. Yeah, and then this book, he's a great kid. Yeah, no, because he's on sort of what I believe is the correct side of history. And, so that's just
you raised him right, girl. He's raised
a good boy.
Him right.
That
part of that village, I'm sure.
It's a village, but this is your story really. In Belonging but what I was saying is that when you have the stack of books, because you have to read them for work, it's like drudgery. Right. Like I look over to my left and I see 10 books there for people coming up, and I like to be prepared. I like to read the book. It's like respectful,
right?
But they're not all great. And some of them I have to slog my way through. So like a week before, I'm a very fast reader, so that's a gift. But like a week before I'm going to talk to anybody, I start to carry the book around my house. This is my method. This
literally,
so that I can like remember to read it. Well,
you try audiobooks?
They're good too on the treadmill. A week ago, I take your
my book will be on audio. So that's like the benefit of you have the both worlds scenario.
It's going to be audio, Kindle, and this gorgeous hardcover. Like I want people buying the gorgeous hardcover. Anyway, I cracked it open. I finished it in a day and a half. And it's just so well written. And your story is so captivating. Michelle, I mean, let's just start at the beginning. Sort of this idea that you thought for so many years that the woman who gave birth to you and just handed you to your father. And I'm not even getting into sort of the race stuff yet, which obviously is deeply a part of this. But I think from the jump, sort of that abandonment thing that you kind of lived with until you realized there was a much richer story, as there usually is just compelling and heartbreaking and beautiful all at once.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all those amazing words and expressions. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And I hope what the book will do is there are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of children who don't fit into that, quote, normal space of family life, who are here and who, like me, desire acknowledgement, desire place, purpose, and belonging. And what I want people who are in this space or in a space where they haven't felt secure, I'm hoping they learn to kind of move on and move beyond it. I'm still very much touched by it, but I think my level of success, the family I've created, the wonderful friendships I have in my life, it more than makes up for anything I feel at a small place in time throughout the weeks and years of my life.
Yeah.
So, that's why I wrote it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as a child, you have a different way of coping and a different way of sort of placing things in your head. It's kind of like this, it's like a cloud, right? And so I never felt any anger toward my mother, until I had my own children.
Yeah.
And this is, okay, this is gonna blow your mind, Jenny. I had my first book party last night,
Yeah.
and a man walks up and he looks at me and he says, "Do you remember me?" And I looked at him and my eyes widened. He is a distant cousin by
Yeah.
the name of Donovan Nickerson, who was the person who helped me find my mother.
No. No. But was he the
The
one who
one
had you call her?
He was the one who, l like, found her, literally with
Yes.
her birth date and her name, her maiden
Mhm.
name,
Mhm.
and found her and gave her number to me and said, "Do with this what you must." And he doesn't remember that part of it. He remembers us talking about our connection on a bus at Howard University, and he remembers me telling him the story. He does not remember giving me that key piece of information, and I told him, I was like, "Without you, I could not have written this.
Yeah.
Without
Oh,
you," and you came, and he doesn't even live here.
I'm gonna go
He
back
was
to some yeah.
he was visiting a friend, and
It
boom, and then another woman was there who babysat for my father.
wow.
She's from Compton, California. She was here and
Well,
came to the
yeah.
book party.
Okay, so here's the thing. I wanna talk about this anger that emerged once you had your
Okay,
babies, which I
okay,
fully understand. And I also wanna talk about your father, and I'm sorry
okay.
that you lost your father. I get it. I've now lost both of my parents, and
Mhm.
it's like you never really got to have your mother, so there's that loss, and then you lost your father who was just I swear, like, the way the story is told, there's such a magical sensibility to your upbringing that everybody stepped in to make sure that you were taken care of and raised in a way that you would soar. They were not going to allow you to slip through any kind of crack because of your mother's choice. And reading it, I mean, from your grandmother and Big, I want to meet Big. Every
She's here. That's why I'm in Atlanta.
there you go.
There's a statue being unveiled tomorrow of Big. She has a street named after her in
Ah,
downtown Atlanta, and the statue unveiling is here. And I'll send you a picture, but
please. There you go.
but I mean, the lesson of these people stepping in really is the lesson for all of us.
Yeah,
And that you never know what kind of a difference you can make in someone's life.
for
And
real.
all of these people in the little bits and places and spaces they filled in for me, they created a staircase for me
Yeah,
to ascend to my
yeah,
life.
yeah. But you chose to walk up those stairs. So there's that it you could have gone a different direction. Your anger came later, and your fight was so strong at the beginning that you knew you had to become and belong who you are. Like, you knew that you had this destiny, even if you couldn't put a name to it until later, something in you knew. But I just in reading it, I fell in love with these characters. Then I also fell in love with Howard University. And I was like, why wasn't I like the one of the 3 white kids at Howard? I should have gone to Howard. Like I that utopic kind of environment that you talk about is just it's magnificent, and what a cool thing to experience feeling finally in a way like you're home.
Yes. And I'm sure so many other people feel that way. It's
Yeah.
truly a gift to be attached to your alma mater in that way.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so proud because of the legacy that my
Yeah.
grandmother
Yeah.
established, and then
Mm.
my dad, and then me.
Yeah.
Um, just feeling whole, and then sort of like not having to wear any kind of a mask. And
Yeah.
we all wear masks
Of
in the
course.
society, right?
Yeah.
But not having to feel misunderstood, or whatever that thing is that
Sure.
the race thing always seems to, you know,
Especially for someone like you who had to sort of say, "Look, I don't care if you think I look white or you think I look Latina or Latinx or you think I'm
right.
whatever. I'm Black, I'm biracial, I'm whatever I am."
Mhm.
And what like it was one more thing for you to have to
Right.
contend with, and you'd
Well,
already had
there's
enough.
yeah, well, so many people at Howard, there was every shade of the rainbow. There were
Yeah,
kids who
so
looked
cool.
like who they were you the blonde was next to the brunette, and the brunette was white, and the blonde was black. It was
Perfect.
just such a one it was
Yeah.
like, oh, you could just throw all the labels
I
away.
love that. Yeah. I love that though. That's like that's the hope, right? That is the
Right.
whole you hope that that becomes what we all are and all do as opposed to the labeling and the marginalizing. And but it's really like your whole thing and your grandmother's story and your father's story and his being the surgeon and the fact that he was so charismatic and also a little naughty and your love for him and
I
your
know.
understanding for the who that he was is
And
I yeah.
Jenny, what's crazy is that, I grew up knowing my dad for exactly the man he was, because he showed
Mhm.
it all to me. It was,
Mhm.
there was no I think he felt there was no hiding. Like, after I
Yeah.
had you out of wedlock, and you were part of my life, therefore, anything else is like, I'm just an open book. And so I think about my friends who I remember I had a friend whose parents divorced in college, and you would have thought she was 8, 9, 10 years old. It hit her that hard.
Mhm.
The realities of life for a child, it's wonderful to grow up, under the illusion that life is a crystal stair, but it's going to hit you at some point. And I
Yeah.
think it's and so my father was able to, through all of his naughtiness, there was only one person that was truly his enemy, and that one person was the first woman he married. And I
Mhm.
say that was she was
Mhm.
such an awful human being. I'm sorry, that's so awful to say,
It
but
isn't awful, but you tell the
because and
story in the
here's
book.
what, and
Yeah.
this is why I will say this, because I thought I gave her some grace in this book,
You did.
but
You were not cruel
but
and you weren't mean. Yeah.
but I mean now, because I met a woman who babysat for her last night at that book party that I was describing to you. And she told me how she treated that second sister that I lost. She told me how she did not like this child. She would keep her at arm's distance, and that she would make her eat her meals with the maid. Can you imagine? You
This
adopt
is
two
yeah.
children. One is light skinned, looks like me. The other one is brown skin.
Yeah.
She had curly hair, and she treated her so awfully, according to this woman who babysat. And one day she said, I came over to the house to babysit, and I asked, "Where is Adrian?" And she said, "She doesn't live here anymore."
Oh my gosh.
She
Oh
took,
my
you know what happened,
Well,
because you read the book.
I did
But
well, it's so okay,
I don't wanna tell
okay,
everything
fine,
because
but it's not even real. I mean, it's real because it happened, but you read it
right.
and you're like, "Who would who would
Who
do
would do
this?"
this? So now you see that that was an example of what we call colorism, right?
I want
Within
you to explain this, Michelle, because for
Black
people
community.
listening,
It's
and
a hard subject because
yeah,
it turns a lens on ourself, but, there are instances of it in the book, but because, everyone was groomed to ascend the color ladder of they would hope to ascend the color ladder, right? Of there was the assignment, and I'm putting this in quotes. You have to be very careful how you talk about these things. The assignment of whiteness was quote unquote the best, right? And so the lighter skinned you were supposed to be, the quote unquote better. The straighter your hair, quote unquote, the better. And so anyone who would, it was like, and it is such a cruel trick for us in the African American community, because it's another assignment of prejudice
Yeah.
based on color and hair texture, because again, we were groomed throughout the history of this country
Yeah.
to assign value to the whiteness and the white features, the whiter skin, and that's where the colorism, that is what colorism is. And a lot of us have been on one end or the other. You're starting to see less of that now, but it was real. And you've heard of people
Of
passing.
course. Yeah.
That that plays into it as well. So like an owning of who you are. I never wanted to get caught up in that, which is why I held so firm in that story about that boy in junior high school.
Anthony, what was his name?
Well, that
Andrew.
wasn't his real name,
Okay.
because I don't,
Right.
but because, I try to protect the people who really hurt me. I don't call them out.
Right. Oh, that story just
But
broke my
but
heart.
that broke my heart. That
It
really
broke
did,
my
because
heart.
that was like the boom. Okay, this
What a
really
time.
does exist.
What a world. Well, there's that and that, but I think the way you handled, I mean, the way you handled the story of the girls who got
Mm,
upset with you because of
yes,
your comment about hair.
because
Yeah.
they thought I was being a mean girl,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I really like went back to that memory. What did I say? How did I say it? My children are always telling me, "Mommy, tone, mommy." So, you may have an intention of what you mean, but it may come out the wrong way. And so it's really important that you take care in how you sometimes express yourself. And I was like,
Yeah.
what, not 8 years
Yeah.
old?
Yeah, but I think that was your upbringing. See, I think in your house, I think that your father and your grandmother and the people you were surrounded by wanted you to be wholly you and
Mhm.
embrace your being black, embrace your being whoever you are, and all the things about you, that you were brilliant, that you were competent, that you were interesting, that you were beautiful, that you were strong, all the things about you. And they might, I don't know, because I wasn't there, but they weren't teaching you to be mindful of other Black children or other Black girls and their hair and the sensitivity, which is, of course, appropriate based on the history and how they've been treated forever. I mean,
Mhm.
that's why those girls behaved the way that they
Oh,
did.
yes.
It's
And I
oppression.
hope that came through,
It totally
that
came through. You were so
that I
compassionate.
felt. I
Yes.
mean, it hurt, but I
Sure.
also felt like, what did I do? Why did they, because I felt their pain too.
Correct. That's
I
come
felt
that's
I
so
felt
clear.
their I felt they felt ugly. They felt,
Yes.
and they had no other way to express it, but
Yes.
to attack the thing that was between us all, right? The hair.
Yes, that was so clear. Yeah. But then the issue with the boy a few years later, the Jewish kid who thought that you were somehow pretending to be Jewish is
I was passing.
I it I I
I was
can't even I
passing
don't even know how to
because
articulate how I feel about this as a Jewish girl. Like,
you're
I've
gonna
never
you're gonna
once.
love this though. But Jenny, but you're gonna love this. Like because that was my first like exposure to really knowing like
Yeah,
white kids. I thought all white people were Jewish, which is really
spectacular.
right. And that because the only
Spectacular.
Catholics I knew aside from the Pope were black.
That's so good.
Isn't that funny?
So
And
good.
so And then we were Baptist, Black people were Baptist. So it's like funny how when you're in your bubble,
That's what you think. Yeah. Oh my God. It's okay. So let's go back to the anger part because I
well, my
understand
anger.
why. Yeah, having a child, and we haven't really fully given anything yet about your biological mother and how she left or what her decision was and why she made that decision and where you are now.
Okay.
But
So,
and I want that. I want that context for
okay.
people, and then you'll
So,
talk about the anger.
so I am my mother's secret. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
no one,
Oh.
and to be clear, no one on her side of the family, to my knowledge, knows that I exist. So that's like she was absent in my life, but that's a huge absence, especially growing up in the 70s, at a time when, we were all watching the Brady Bunch or the
Yeah.
Partridge Family. And when a parent was absent, it was because they were dead,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, just all of the questions that would arise. My mother, there were two reasons that my mother, I think, could not be in my life or chose not to be in my life or didn't fight to be in my life. One was that my father was married at
Yeah.
the time that I was born. The other was that they were having a relationship for many years,
Yeah.
that was in secret for that reason, but also too, she hid the fact that he was African American from her family.
Yeah.
So at the point that they discovered she was dating a Black man, they had a family meeting. I understand she was told it's him or us, and she chose her family, and I understand that. Now, mind you, I knew my father never discussed any of this with me. I don't even think he knew all of this. If he did not feel the need
Sure.
to impart, like, her story on me, and it's almost as if he felt betrayed by what could have been if she had made a different decision, and therefore, he didn't want to complicate my life. At the point at which he got sick, some 24 years later,
Yeah.
was the point when he told me, "Go find your mother."
Yeah.
And when he did that, it was like almost I never thought I would go in search of my mother. I always thought perhaps she would come in search of me.
Yeah.
But when he said that, um, it was like, "Okay," and that's when I had a conversation with this distant cousin who I found again last night, who then ran a check, and boom, like that, probably the easiest thing, search for a parent that I think in the history of searches. Um, and I met with her for about an hour, and all of like sort of the curtain, like the curtain before Oz had
Yeah.
disappeared. And so she enlightened me with as much as she could in an hour, but again, I was her secret. And it was clear I was going to remain her secret.
I
And another 20 years went by. And by that
Mhm.
time, I was married with children and um,
Famous.
established.
On
Um,
your way to famous, which I have a theory. Go on.
well, I was established. Yes, I
Yeah.
was. And I married a prominent person. In fact, she told me that she saw the wedding
Mm,
on television where she lived. And um, I invited her to the wedding. I
of
sent
course.
her a birth announcement of my first child. And the fact that she never answered that, she never acknowledged that. And then when I actually spoke to her on the phone, her reaction to me moving to New York was, "Oh, I just left New York. I went to go visit my granddaughter."
Oh
And
god.
that was it. It was like seething anger. And I was like, "Where is this coming from?" And then I realized it was because now it's a generation removed, and she's going to continue the legacy of secrecy to my children. And so this is how I sort of uncover my longing for belonging, because that was when I really it elevated, or it evolved into something else for me, and I had to get through that. I had to get through that. And so, you know, what I think belonging is or means is it's a constant evolution, because we're
Yeah.
constantly changing, we're constantly finding new spaces and being in relationships with new people, but being okay with the evolution and being okay with whatever state you're in,
Yeah.
and in whatever place you're in,
Yeah.
that it's a comfort. And it took me a minute before I discovered it, and discovered that, you know, I had all the belonging I needed.
But I think, Michelle, that part of why Big's life appealed to you and this idea of broadcast appealed to you and this idea of being on television for all to see appealed to you is I think a part of you must have felt like maybe then she'll see me. Maybe
Hmm.
then she'll think there's my girl. And maybe then she'll, even before you had met her, you were on that road to journalism,
Mhm.
right? You were
Yes.
already, because you were already getting married when, right? Because right before your father died, your husband asked to marry you. So
So
you were
right.
already doing.
So so my father got sick about a year after I graduated from college. So it was
Yeah.
about a 6.5 year span of time that he lived through his illness,
Wow.
and by within that first year is when I found her, or second. Um, and, so yes, I was already, you know, I had my first job in journalism.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was I was determined to be
To
successful,
make it.
to make it,
Right. And
make
she
it.
could have seen you somewhere. And I think we do those things in life that we think if we become this or do that, that yes, we'll belong, but sort of those who broke our hearts or left us will be reminded and want to come back. And that's also the heartbreaking thing here that you've given her so many chances
Mhm.
and so many opportunities in the most gentle, kind way. Though you did dance with the devil at one point with the the cousin or the one you reached out to. You did
But
dance with the devil a teeny tiny bit.
I
I get
did.
it.
And do you
I
and
get it.
the parallels
Insane.
between all of the lives,
Mhm.
between hers, mine,
The whole thing.
and my stepdaughter.
Mhm. It's yes. It's a lot. It's
It
but
is a
that's what makes the
lot.
book so good. But that's
It
what makes the book
layered.
such a layered good read. And there's
Yeah.
something about feeling less than for whatever reason that propels many people to do almost like the great things because it's where people think like, "Oh, you want to do this cuz you think you're so amazing."
No.
That's not the reason why.
It's a need.
What?
It's a
Correct.
need.
100%. It's a yes, you must have a kernel of I know I can do the things, but it's that need to cuz you're missing something. Something was missed. The angry part,
Mhm.
was it the seeing your own kids and your love and primal affection, attachment that, you wanna eat your damn children, right? Like, those kids my kids still, they're 22 and 24. I can't function till I know they're up in the morning and they're going to sleep at night. Like, I need proof of life throughout the day. They are my world. The idea that my mother could not know where I am from morning till night and be okay
Jenny,
once you've experienced motherhood.
can I make a confession?
Yeah.
I wonder, and my children know this, I wonder if there's like a chip missing with me. You know what I mean? Because of that, because I'm actually the mom. I'm not calling my kids every morning. I'm not that mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have a lot of guilt about that. I
Don't have
want,
guilt about it. Yeah,
and I bring a lot of amazing women in my life to help me mother my children.
that's okay.
And so, like, I wonder if, it's either you can go 2 ways. You can be an helicopter-ish or, a, like, close, like, super close mom,
Mhm.
or you can be a, like, distant, and I'm somewhere in the I'm like, I'm not I'm more on the distant side, or I'm the kind of person who I'm inappropriately involved in a way that my kids are like, "Okay, mom. No, no,
First of
no."
all,
Like,
I think there are so many ways to mother, and I
oh,
don't believe there's one right way to mother
but all my
other
friends
than
are really great moms.
no, other than be there in the sense that you're their mother and they know they can get you, right? Like you're their mother. So like you are their mother. Whether or not you have help, I think the more people who love your kids in the right way, the better for your kids. Like help is a
Absolutely.
good thing. And I've said this so many different times in so many different ways. I am sure that the fact that I've worked since my kids were 5 and 7 or 5 and 6 saved them from my being more overbearing than I am because I would have been the worst helicopter parent had I had the time to be that way. And it has saved them because I'm bad enough. So I don't know that it's so good to be as attached as I am. I don't know that it is, but
It's
I've
wonderful.
tried to kind of balance that. None of us get it all right, and most of us don't get it all wrong. I think if you love your kids, you're probably doing a good job. And the fact that you even question it makes me know that you're doing a good job. And why the fuck wouldn't you have a chip missing? I mean, honestly, no, like
There's
seriously, like,
clearly a chip missing,
no,
Jenny.
but like
There's
Michelle,
on so many levels.
but why
This
wouldn't
is
you?
great. Can
Yeah.
I just say, Jenny, this is great therapy for me.
But like, but do you know what I mean? Like, why it wouldn't it's so real and honest for you to acknowledge that kind of loss that isn't supposed to be. It's
Right.
so the fact that you turned out the way you did is a testament to you and who you are in your belly and your family who took care of you and raised you in this extraordinary environment. I mean, that's what comes through in the
Aw,
book. Not, the deficit is there because it has to be. That's
yeah.
where we get belonging or not belonging, but
Yeah.
you had
But
abundance.
don't you find that people who write these amazing books, who it's always they're much more, they're like they seem like completely together.
It's bullshit because 3
And
years
they're
later,
completely, so I'm glad I didn't name any names, but you know what I mean? It's
they
like,
are not
I
completely
look at
together.
them and I'm
Yeah,
like, "Oh my gosh, I'm
dude.
not okay, I wrote this book, but people are saying, "Was it good therapy for you?" It was like, "What's the it's almost like it's like a fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
We have been groomed to read books as if there's gonna be a happy ending.
But it's not true.
And
The
it's
truth
not
is
true,
that
and it's
life
like,
goes
I'm not
on.
all
Right.
together, and I'm not like this, I'm gonna give you great advice, because I'm just hoping that if you 2 have deficits and loose chips
We all
and
do.
have this need, and it's okay. That's all I want people to know, it's okay
That's why I
if
love the book.
and it's okay. Because
But
you know what?
that's the
I ain't
point.
so bad. I turned
But
out pretty good,
that's the point.
and I still have all of these issues, right?
That's the point of the book. That's why it's good. Because nothing is neatly tied in a bow for anybody ever. Nothing.
Yeah.
And those who pretend it is are lying. So for you, Michelle, I think the flawed human existence and human spirit and humanity, human condition, that's so appealing and real. And when we read about somebody's journey and it's ongoing and they're dealing with the trauma and living really their best lives, that's the hope. That's the truest of hopes and the attainable hope because there is no perfection. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because it's fake.
Well, that's the evolution. That's the constant evolution of life.
Yeah.
That, it's ups and downs, it's pitfalls and successes, and
Mm.
it's just getting back up and just trying to move forward through it all. And so many people are able to do that. For me, for some people, it's I don't know what it is for some people. For me, it was belonging, acknowledgement, and the need to succeed
Yeah.
in my life. That there
Yeah.
was it was a need. And there's something that almost is I'm somewhat ashamed to say that, but I don't know if you call that ambition or drive. That's wonderful. Those are great terms. But just an engine behind me, to make sure that I put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving.
Yeah. I
Some
know
people
that
say I move
feeling.
too much.
I do the same thing. But that's some of us deal with stress and trauma and grief and whatever's the ish. I call it the ish. Whatever is your ish in the moment, whether it's a big ish or a small ish, we move through it because that feeling of being static
Mhm.
can be too much to bear. So
It
if you just
really
keep
can.
right, so you keep because you take action. I don't know that it's a bad thing to take action. Now, if you're taking action to avoid having any feelings, maybe you take a beat and you feel something. But I think forward movement is the right answer because while every problem isn't fixable, I really believe it's manageable or it's
Mhm.
workable.
That is a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
While every problem may not be fixable, it is
Hmm.
manageable. I like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna quote you, Jenny.
You can anytime, Michelle. No, but that is what I believe. And I think that's sort of in belonging. The through line is, look, this isn't ending pretty. This isn't
Mm.
ending with my mommy calling me and saying, "I'm so sorry, baby."
I love you so much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I'm furious with her. Like
Mm.
but I also
Well,
think where we can give her some grace maybe, and I don't know if you've looked at it like this. In order for your mother to turn around and say to you, "Oh my God, I did all this," she would have to really look at herself. I don't know that she could, that I think it's so implicating. And I think that some people really can't own that stuff that they've done. It's too big. It just might be too big for her because then she's going to feel the loss to have
well,
not
Jenny,
been able to see you and be with you.
I I don't think it's what she did. I think it's what she didn't do that
Yeah.
really pains me.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah. That's
it's
right.
I could live with everything else, but the ask and then the denial of
I,
acknowledgement.
I,
It like 40 years later, you
yeah.
still can't admit what happened.
Because she'd have to admit it to herself, Michelle. She'd have to admit that she abandoned you. You're this glorious being. She missed out on a whole life of you. You're magic. So
Mhm.
she has to feel that grief and she has to also realize the harm that she did. It's incredibly implicating and selfish and but I got to think because I tend to think that most people are good that she just couldn't she's not strong enough. And that's sad.
And she said that.
Uh,
She did say that. She said a
right.
lot. Um, and she admitted a lot. But, I think we all can admit our failings, but what are we gonna do about
Oh my
them?
God, you're right. You have every reason to be sad, hurt, angry, the whole bit. Of course. Of course. I mean, I don't know how you separate sort of you from that because it's it's not really about you even though it's completely about you. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, hopefully it has armed me with an empathy,
Yeah.
that gets me through my day to day, you know,
Yeah.
it perhaps is why I relate to people the way I do
Yeah.
and why I choose to do the feature stories that I do and in the hard news stories that I do, that
Yeah.
I see things that perhaps other people don't see.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I it made me who I am.
Yeah.
This trail, this journey, the I can't be I you know, in the end, I can't be angry about any of it because it's what made me who I am. And I think that
And
that is one of the lessons for me in writing this book.
yeah.
If you changed any bit of it, I may not be here.
Right. And that would be the worst of all of it.
There it is.
Yeah. What about the fact that your dad raised you so well that you met this great guy? I love how you talk about the romance. I love that even that is bumpy. It's like you never had an easy road. You didn't get into a sorority till later. Like you never had it easy. When did you have it easy, right? And then,
It's always so
yeah,
fun. It was like that first the woman who
so good.
flew out from Good Morning America to meet me after I graduated from college because she
Mhm.
saw some spark of a something,
Yeah.
and she meets me and she says, "Oh,
Yeah.
you really good on camera. If only the person that's off camera had the confidence of the person who's on camera, I might be hiring you right now." So I'm thinking, "Oh,
Yeah.
my network job just went out the window."
Mhm.
No, it made it so that I was better prepared and could
Mhm.
handle network life
Mhm.
when I finally got there. There's
Yeah.
so many once around the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
I didn't capture that brass ring. I was like, I was so close.
So
And I
close.
and then it happens.
Yeah.
Because, can I tell you something, Jenny? Anything I have spoken out loud,
Yeah.
anything, I have spoken out loud, I have achieved.
Yeah.
Anything I've told the universe, I want to be a foreign correspondent. I want to be a network news correspondent. I want to marry a guy who has the big five. Did I talk
Mhm.
about the big five?
You did. Mhm.
I thought I did.
Mhm.
It's so funny to recall what you leave in, what you take out.
Of
It's
course, you can't remember
there's
it.
a
I
lot
can't
in
remember
there.
yesterday. Yes, of course.
And but everything, it just and so I tell people, everyone, there are two things I tell people. Speak your dreams, hopes out loud to the universe. Some people call it prayer, some people call it meditation, but say it out loud. There's
Yeah.
such power. So don't say things that are negative. Just those aspirational things, those wonderful things. Say them out loud. You know, and then the second thing is a setback is nothing but a setup for a comeback. That's my
I
favorite.
love that. Oh, that's so good. Do you wanna say what the big 5 are or do you wanna leave it for the book?
Yeah, let's leave them for the book because it's so
Okay.
funny because sometimes I can't remember.
But I do love the courtship, and I do love the big 5, but what I was also gonna say is that all of the other word people use is manifesting. You were doing the work. Like, it almost to me is diminishing when we talk about speaking our dreams or speaking our wants or thinking or wishing or
Oh,
hoping
no, I did do
because
the
you
work.
did the work
But yeah,
constantly.
but yeah, you do the work and you get there. It's like you do. But it's yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who say things out loud and they don't come true,
Correct, because they don't do
right?
anything.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was doing the work too. But I guess
Yes.
I was reminding myself, this is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a process, right?
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
process.
I do think also though there is something I'm going back to your grandmother and to your dad and just the village that raised you because your self-esteem when you were chubby and about to get teased, all of a sudden you found athleticism. Like you just knew how to somehow turn the situation in a way that was gonna work for you.
Are you talking about my dodgeball, like,
I'm talking about your
ability?
dodgeball superstar moment. I'm
Oh,
talking about
girl,
going from last to be
that
picked to,
that was like
doing great.
Wonder Woman, Supergirl. I
Boobs and
mean,
all.
there's such
Yeah.
power, and that's why athletics are so important. That's why
Yeah.
Title IX was so important. I just miss team sports. I was just a little too old to be able to hit that magic of Title IX
Yeah.
in junior high, elementary school.
Yeah.
But can I just say
Yes.
can I just say that athletics are so important to building confidence
Yeah.
and the person, the whole person.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, there was nothing better than, like, kicking some behind. Those guys that wanted to talk about me, man, they could not they saw the other end of that ball in their
That's
face
right. That's right. Yeah.
because mhm,
Yeah. No, it's so
yep.
good. The book is Belonging by Michelle Miller, of course, co-host of CBS Saturday Morning. A daughter's search for identity through loss and love. Do you think that she's going to read the book?
I don't know. I don't know. And if she does read the book, I don't think she will feel the need to reach out.
Is there a fantasy though that she might?
No,
Okay.
no, there isn't.
Okay,
There
that's
isn't. There
good.
really isn't,
That's really healthy.
because I don't know if I want her to. I don't like it because I lay it all out there, and so
Mhm.
it's I don't think I think we've said everything.
Yeah.
We've said it all. So this
Mhm.
was my period, the end. I know I don't well, you have to read the book, but I
Yes, no, I
really
know. I know.
I really do believe,
Mhm.
um but look, I am an eternal optimist.
Right.
I just
Right.
don't know what the optimistic end to a story in which she reaches out to me other than being feeling misunderstood, angry in her own right,
Right.
or a level of you've exposed my life and I
She
don't
has
appreciate.
not. You have not. She has not. I'm talking to you. You have not. You have not. You've
Yeah,
not. I can't find her based on what you wrote. You have not exposed anything. You've told your story as you know it to be. You're well within your right to do that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
It's beautiful. Belonging by Michelle Miller. Get the book. It's available now. You could follow Michelle on social media at Michelle Miller. Is that your social handles across the board?
No, can you
Okay.
believe? Oh,
What
no,
are
it's
they?
CBS M. Miller on Twitter. It is Michelle Miller 29 on Instagram and
Forever
Facebook.
29. Yeah.
Yes, Forever 29.
Uh-huh.
And Michelle Miller on
Okay.
Facebook.
I'll put
Yes,
it in the show notes so people can find you.
thank
And
you.
and yeah, congratulations. And I hope you feel sort of a weight lifted by telling your story. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with people far and wide.
I'm so happy I've told a good story.
Mhm.
And also, I had help telling it, Rosemary Robotham. I could not have done it without her.
Well, however you did it well. So
Thank
good job.
you.
Thank you for being on my podcast. You guys, you can follow me on Instagram at Just Jenny Hutt, on TikTok and Twitter at Jenny Hutt. Any questions or comments about today's episode, email justjennypod@gmail.com. And I'll be back here again, per usual, tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Jenny!